My name is Eliza, and I want to tell you about something that happened to me. Try not to embarrass us again this year, okay? Keep your feelings to yourself for once. That's what my mother said last Easter, laughing like it was a joke, like I was the problem. I remember holding my smile together like it was made of glass. But this Easter, I felt something crack before we even arrived. I always believed that if you love quietly, loyally, and without demands, people would do the same. Turns out that kind of love only teaches them how to walk all over you and still expect you to thank them. It started on the drive to my parents' house. The sky was soft with spring. My dress was new. I'd baked carrot cake with fresh cream cheese frosting, balancing it carefully in my lap. I even brought an extra casserole dish because Mom always forgot the yams. Then my husband tightened his grip on the steering wheel and said 4 words I'll never forget: "Don't get out of the car." I turned, confused. Why? He didn't answer. He locked the doors instead. "Eliza," he said, almost whispering. "Trust me, you don't want to see this." Something inside me shifted. The trees outside blurred past as we rolled into my parents' driveway. Too slow, too quiet. I looked toward the porch. No one was there, but the front door was wide open. My husband parked, didn't move, just stared straight ahead. "Eliza," he said again. "Please just stay." But my heart was already moving faster than my thoughts. Through the front window, half covered by lace curtains, I saw it. I saw him in my father's favorite chair. My brother standing next to him. My mother laughing. Everyone was there except me. And in the middle of it all, they were holding a baby girl. The banner above read, "Welcome home, Leia, our first grandchild." And just like that, I understood. I wasn't the daughter anymore. I wasn't the wife either. I was just the one they needed to lie to keep their secret alive, but they forgot one thing. I came bearing gifts. And this Easter, I didn't come empty-handed. My hands shook. The casserole dish fogged up the glass as I pressed it to the window, trying to steady my breath. They were toasting, clicking glasses, celebrating. My mother was crying happy tears. My father held the baby like she was made of gold. My brother was standing there proud like a new father. Except he wasn't married. Not anymore. His fiancée, my best friend Lauren, had left him 2 years ago. Or so I thought. I whispered, "Is that Lauren?" My husband didn't answer. Instead, he reached across, gently took the cake from my lap, and set it on the floor. Then he leaned forward, head in his hands, whispering like he couldn't believe we were finally here. "Eliza, I begged them not to do this today. I told them you deserved the truth." I stared at him. "You knew." His voice broke. "They all agreed you didn't need to know, that it would only make things difficult." For a moment, all I could hear was the pulse in my ears. Years of family dinners, messages ignored, sudden cancelled plans, the holidays where they said Lauren was traveling, and the cryptic mentions of my brother's new path. They weren't just hiding her, they were hiding her child, his child, their first grandchild. And I was the afterthought, the seat they conveniently forgot to set at the table. I opened the car door. "Eliza, please," my husband begged. "Don't give them the scene they're expecting. Don't give them the chance to call you dramatic again." I froze mid-step as I remembered last year, how I brought them news of my miscarriage quietly, tearfully. Only to hear my mother say, "These things happen. Don't dwell." And now I saw why they brushed it off, why they moved on so fast. There was already a replacement child, already a replacement me. I stood there in the driveway alone with spring wind tugging at the hem of my dress. Then I smiled, a quiet, hollow smile. I didn't come here to fight. I came to remember who I was. And it was time they remembered. I walked up the path to the front door slowly, like it was sacred ground I no longer belonged to. Like every step echoed a chapter one never meant to return to. My heels clicked softly on the brick The sound reminded me of the girl I used to be, the one who used to run barefoot through this garden with scraped knees and forgiveness in her pockets. But that girl was gone. I reached the door. They hadn't even noticed me. Laughter spilled from the living room. Lauren's laugh. I hadn't heard it in years, and it hadn't changed at all. Still sweet, still polished, still full of the kind of betrayal that doesn't knock. It invites itself in. I looked back once. My husband sat in the car, head resting against the steering wheel. Maybe scared, but he knew me. He knew this wasn't going to end in a scream. I stepped inside. Not a single head turned. I walked through the hallway, past the framed photos I once admired. Only now I noticed which ones were missing. My wedding picture, gone. The baby shoes they once hung for me, gone. In their place, a fresh photo of Lauren cradling her daughter. Next to my brother in a pressed blue shirt, the house smelled of rosemary and roasted lamb. Of everything I was raised to think meant home, but nothing felt like mine. Then finally, my father looked up. Fork paused midair. Eliza. The room silenced. My mother turned, her hand frozen on the champagne glass. Lauren dropped her eyes, but the smirk came late, a second too slow, and the baby cried, a soft, startled sound as if she sensed the shift. I stepped forward, placed the carrot cake right in the center of the dining table. Don't worry, I said gently. I brought the dessert. Wouldn't want to come empty-handed. No one spoke. I traced my finger across the white lace tablecloth, the same one my grandmother left me. You always said Easter was about family, I added. And secrets? Well, they don't pair well with frosting. Then I looked at my mother, straight in her stunned, hollow eyes. Tell me, when did I become a guest in my own bloodline? No one had an answer, so I left the question hanging in the air like smoke from a candle just blown out. You could have heard the wind outside. That's how quiet it got. No one moved. Not even the baby, who now lay asleep in Lauren's arms, unaware she was the centerpiece of a lie. I stood there between the past and the present. And for the first time, I wasn't the one trying to explain myself. I let the silence breathe. Let it crawl over their skin the way guilt always does, slow, sticky, impossible to wipe off. Finally, my father cleared his throat. Eliza, sweetheart, we were going to tell you. We just didn't want to ruin Easter. A small laugh escaped me, not out of humor, but something deeper. Then you probably shouldn't have invited me. But we didn't, my mother began, then caught herself. The truth slipping out in fragments. You didn't, I said softly. I wasn't supposed to be here. This whole thing, this celebration, it was never meant for me. I turned to Lauren. She looked down at her daughter, pretending she couldn't hear me. You used to cry in my arms over him. Do you remember that? Her lips trembled. You said he was cruel. You said he didn't believe in you. I paused. Now I see you didn't want belief. You wanted position. My brother shifted uncomfortably. Don't do this here, Eliza. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm just seeing clearly for the first time. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Carefully, I placed it beside the carrot cake. It was a deed transfer, the one for the cottage on our family's second property. The same cottage I'd renovated after my miscarriage. The same one my parents said I could always escape to when the world got too loud. Except I had just discovered they'd secretly transferred it to my brother 2 months ago. I brought this too, I said quietly. Thought it might belong at the table. My mother turned pale. My father looked away, but I stood straighter. Because sometimes you don't need to raise your voice. You just need to show people what they threw away and how perfectly you carried it back, undamaged, and no one touched the cake. It sat there perfectly. Centered like a peace offering no one had the stomach for. My fingers grazed the corner of the deed again. I found out by accident, I said. The bank called about a property tax correction. They said the names had changed. No one spoke. I took a slow breath. You didn't just keep secrets. You erased me one signature at a time. My mother finally broke the silence. We didn't think you'd want the cottage anymore. After what happened. Her voice was trembling, not with regret, but with the discomfort of being caught. My eyes met hers. You mean after I lost the baby alone while Dad was golfing, and you were busy helping Lauren rebuild her life? The baby stirred. Lauren shifted her hold. I let the words settle like dust on their polished furniture. You said the cottage would be my quiet, my healing. I swallowed the ache. But healing's hard to find when the people who promise to protect you are the ones signing you away. My brother tried to stand tall. Look, we didn't mean to hurt you. I raised a hand. You didn't think about me enough to hurt me. That's the part that stings. I walked slowly toward the living room window. The wind was picking up outside. Cherry blossoms swirled like snow across the porch. You all kept building a family without me, I whispered, and I kept defending you when no one else would. Even my therapist said, Eliza, maybe they just don't see you. And I said, no, they love me. They're just busy. I turned back around. But now I understand. You didn't forget me. You chose to live without me. And then you just got good at it. I looked at the baby. She blinked up at me, all innocence and unknowing. I don't blame her, I said, voice soft. She didn't ask for this mess. Then I smiled, not with bitterness, but with something older, something earned. I came to drop off dessert. I did. But I also brought one more thing. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small white envelope. The air in the room shifted. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It arrives sealed and in your own handwriting. I set the envelope on the table beside the deed, gently, like I was laying down the final piece of a puzzle. My brother stared at it. What's that? I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked to the window, pulled the curtain aside, and let in more of the spring light. The truth is best delivered in daylight. I wasn't supposed to know about the cottage, I said. But I also wasn't supposed to know about the trust fund Grandma left behind. My mother stiffened. That was the one secret they never expected to leak. Grandma's estate was split between us, I continued. But what none of you realized is that I was named co-executive alongside her attorney, quietly, on her own request. My voice didn't rise. I didn't need it to. I asked her why she did that. She told me, because you're the only one who never asked me for anything. You just gave. Lauren looked at my mother, eyes wide. What trust fund? I smiled faintly. The one you all assumed didn't exist because Mom told you she used it to pay off debts. But in truth, she never accessed it. Not legally. My mother stood, palms flat on the table. Eliza, no, I interrupted. Sit. She did. I picked up the envelope and handed it to her. Inside were copies of new legal filings, documents I'd submitted just 3 days ago. I'd petitioned to reallocate the remaining trust to a foundation in Grandma's name, a foundation for bereaved mothers, women who, like me, once held life and then had to bury the dream of it in silence. Effective immediately, I said, none of you are beneficiaries anymore. Not of the trust, not of the name. My brother's jaw clenched. You're punishing all of us because you didn't get attention. I looked at him, truly looked. You think this is about attention? It's about dignity. About being told over and over that my grief was inconvenient, my love unnecessary, and my loyalty forgettable. I leaned forward. And I'm not punishing you. I'm reminding you, the daughter you erased, she didn't disappear. She evolved. Outside, a breeze carried petals across the porch like a second spring. Inside, the truth sat heavy. Because the softest envelope sometimes carries the loudest echo, and no one moved. The silence in that room felt different now. Not tense, just hollow, like a song that had finished but its final note still vibrated through. The AIRDMY mother sat down slowly, the envelope in her lap like it weighed more than anything she'd ever carried. Lauren looked away, rocking the baby with emotion too rehearsed. And my father finally looked at me, not as his daughter, just as a woman he no longer understood. "Eliza," he said, voice strained. "Family doesn't do this to each other." That made me pause. I walked over to the fireplace mantel where once my wedding photo had stood. In its place now was a framed sonogram. Lauren's. "I didn't do anything to this family," I said. "I just stopped letting you do things to me. There's a difference." He flinched. Not from anger, from recognition. I turned and faced them all. "I gave you space after the miscarriage. I didn't show up screaming when you erased my wedding picture. I didn't demand answers when you signed away my name from the cottage." I nodded toward the table. "But I did show up today. Because sometimes truth doesn't knock. It enters through the front door holding dessert." I looked at the baby again. Her eyes were the only ones that didn't look away. "She deserves better," I said quietly. "Better than a family that chooses silence over honesty, comfort over truth." Lauren stood finally, her voice small. "We didn't mean to hurt you." "I know," I replied. "You just didn't think I mattered enough to protect." And that's when I realized forgiveness wasn't a gift for them. It was a gate for me. So I opened it. "I forgive you," I said calmly. "Not because you asked, but because I'm done carrying what you refuse to acknowledge." I walked toward the door, not rushed, not angry, just free. And as I opened it, I turned back one last time. "You didn't lose me today," I said. "You lost me a long time ago. You just didn't notice until now." The wind lifted the edge of the lace curtain behind me, and for the first time, I didn't stay to close it. I stepped off the porch. The wind had softened. Cherry blossoms drifted through the air like floating confetti, as if spring itself was applauding the ending I'd written for myself. Then my husband got out of the car when he saw me coming. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, but not the kind of nod that says yes. The kind that says it's done. We drove in silence for a while. No music, no small talk, just the kind of quiet that feels like healing. At a red light, he glanced over. "I didn't know how to stop them," he whispered. "You didn't have to," I said. "I just needed you not to stop me." And he didn't. Not then. Not now. Back home, I changed into soft clothes, lit a candle in the corner of the cottage I still legally owned, the only part of my family's property they couldn't take because I'd had it transferred back quietly before Easter. The same place they tried to give away. Now mine again. I poured tea, opened my laptop, and finalized the website for the foundation I'd named after my lost child, Lillian's Light. A space for mothers who weren't seen, for women who were asked to be quiet through grief. A space I once needed but never found. Before bed, I wrote a letter, folded it, labeled it, for her when she's old enough. I didn't know if Lauren's daughter would ever read it, but just in case, I wanted her to know I was there once, that I saw her, that none of this was her fault, and that sometimes the most powerful women walk away not because they are weak, but because they finally remembered their worth. The next morning I mailed the letter. Then I stepped into sunlight, unburdened. No more waiting for apologies that would never come. No more proving myself to people who decided I was replaceable. I didn't need revenge. I needed restoration. And I gave it to myself. Now, when people ask what happened that Easter, I just smile and say, I brought the cake.